And what is going on, baseball fans? How you doing? Hello, hello. Let's see who we got in the chat right now. I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces. Zachary Goldstein, Sam's G, what's going on? JAH, Connor, Michael Shin, Dave White. Who else we got in here? Mr. Chicken, what is going on, my friends? Hello, hello. Backstage Baseball, what is going on? Ed Bagley, Tom Amiano, a couple of members. Hello, Cody Fletcher. Jack Palomaro, what's going on? How are we doing? Well, couple of things here right off the bat. As a bit of a different setup tonight because we have a guest on tonight's show, and also I have my tea prepared. My voice is still recovering. I know it doesn't sound as I guess as chipper as usually it does, but I couldn't speak the other night. Really, we went 6 hours on Monday night. Ended up coming up with no deal on a new CBA. And then Tuesday came around, and then by the end of Tuesday, we were all sad and crying ourselves to sleep. And so yesterday, my voice completely shot. But today, I think my voice is starting to come back around. So I think we're good to go. I'm seeing a couple of more people in here. Gregory Woolridge, William, what's going on? How many people we got in here? Right around 50 people in the chat right now. But tonight, we are going to be discussing the fallout of these failed negotiations between Major League Baseball and the Players Association. There is a lot of, how do I say it? A lot of people leaning towards the players, and you all know me, you all know my stance. I've always seen it from two different angles. I've always looked at it from both sides. That's how I've always done it. That's how I'm always going to approach it. And that's with anything in life. I'm always going to look at two different angles and or multiple angles, any chance I can get. And with these negotiations, there are, in my opinion, faults from the owners, faults from the players. I think everyone is to blame in this situation. But in tonight's stream, we actually had some comments from a Hall of Fame baseball writer by the name of Bill Madden. He was on Mad Dog's Sirius XM podcast. And Ballcap Sports, he actually made a great video on it yesterday, shared the podcast with all of us, shared Bill Madden's comments on the whole thing. And I think there's some things that kind of back up what I've been feeling this entire time. I feel like a lot of people today, as of today, yesterday, and even during these entire negotiations, there's been a lot of people leaning towards the players' side. And while I am for the players, I want them to get compensated. I want the young players to get compensated. I also see the owner's point of view too. And honestly, I thought the final deal before the deadline that was proposed by the owners, I actually didn't think it was all that bad. I did think the CBT needed to come up a little bit. Honestly, I would have been much more okay if that bonus pool was higher. I felt like it was a little bit low. The minimum salary I was okay with, $700,000. That's about a $120,000 increase from the minimum salary last year. When you add up all the players that are going to be receiving a minimum salary, that's a lot of coin. So I thought that was a pretty good offer. They agreed on a universal DH. They supposedly, it looked like they were going to agree to a 12-team postseason. That, I think, is a sweet spot for an expanded postseason. There were a lot of good things. I felt like a couple of things needed to come up a little bit. I felt like the owners, they fell a little short when it came to the CBT. But let's kind of dive in everything. But we actually have a guest tonight. I'm actually going to be bringing in Jim of Ballcap Sports. I felt like I needed to have a conversation with him because he was the one that did the video explaining Bill Madden's comments on Mad Dog's podcast on SiriusXM. So everyone, say hello to Jim of Ballcap Sports. Jim, how are we doing?
I'm good. How are you, Robbie?
We're doing good. How does my throat sound? How does my voice sound?
You do
I know I don't sound as peachy as always. But
you do sound like you've been through some marathon streams. But you know what? I applaud you for powering through.
Yeah, lots of 6 hour stream. I think you did a 7 hours, so you had me beat the other night. But
water, it's all about the water. Yeah, I hydrated. I think I was telling you, like, I stepped away for 5 minutes to go get more water. Yeah. And literally, I didn't tell anybody in this stream. when we were live. I'll tell you guys now. I fell up the stairs when I was going, and my legs, because I was standing. That was the point where I was still standing. So I'd been standing for over 5 hours, and I was trying to get upstairs quick, kind of fell, dinged up the knee. I'm okay, but I got some water, came back down, powered right through. We lost a third of the viewers in the time that I was gone. So, hey, it was one heck of a night. Lots of stories to come out of that.
And that night, it felt like there was a shift in momentum. It felt like once everyone was saying Bob Nightingale was, the Bob Knight in shining armor that night.
He rose from the ashes. The Bob Nightingale constantly gets trolled, and he rose from the ashes
in sports history. It felt like that's why we stayed up, because we thought there was going to be a deal.
Yeah.
Like, it really felt like it. There were people standing outside. There were people handing out slices of pizza. Like, people were happy outside of Roger Dean Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, everything just got shot down. And that, I tried to stay optimistic like I always do, but it felt like, so this is why when you go to a car dealership, they don't want you to leave, because if you leave, the more likely you're not going to get a deal done. That's why when you're about to walk out the door, the owner says, whoa, hold on, come back here, have some coffee. I got you a little snack here. Come sit back down. We'll get it.
Let me see if I can get another $1,000 knocked off it. Don't go anywhere.
But when they left, I'm like, oh no. Like, I was like, I think we're going to get a deal done. But in my stomach, there was something that didn't feel right. And someone even on The Athletic, I think her name's like Chelsea something. She actually tweeted that out as well. And she said, feelings can change. People can go to sleep. They can wake up with, a different thought. And that's what happened. And then, so let's get into the Bill Madden, comments. If any of you don't know, Bill Madden, Hall of Fame baseball writer. Not many people have heard of him. I feel like he retired, what was it, like 10 years ago? Like 5 years ago? I don't fully remember when he retired. I think. What do you know?
I would say he retired. I want to say, let's see. So he'll tell you he's not retired.
Right.
He's not retired. I think.
Well, he got inducted. Let's say that he got inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yes,
I think sometime in the last 10 years.
2010, he was a recipient of the J.G. Taylor Spink Award, which is all of the Spink Award winners are recognized at the Hall of Fame. So he is. So that was back in 2010. So he has kind of for the last few years been, I guess the best way to put it is sort of like I won't call it a freelancer, but he is, he'll write stories, he'll do things. He's a contributor more than he is a staff writer these days.
Yeah. And
really the best way.
So when I was listening to his comments, this is a guy that, right off the bat, he was quick to say, Rob Manfred, obviously, this is a guy that definitely has his flaws. He was very quick to point that out right in the beginning, because I think we can all agree with that. Like, I think a lot of people do need to understand. I'm still seeing it on Twitter. Twitter, the most magical place on earth. I still am seeing people, going after Rob Manfred, not because of, his persona, not because of the way he, speaks and everything and, comments. I'm seeing more people saying it's his fault, and it's not. And I'm still surprised that people don't seem to grasp that, because it's the 30 owners that end up, they need the 23 votes out of the 30 owners to get a deal done. Yes, he is, in the bargaining and whatever, but he's not at fault for these failed negotiations. However, I do think personally, he does not talk to the media very well. I don't think he communicates very well.
He does not.
I just don't. To me, like I was saying this on the stream the other night, Bud Selig, to me, there was something calming about him. Like, there was something when he spoke. I know he definitely had his flaws, and he definitely, had his low moments, especially, in 1994 and whatever. But I felt like whenever Bud Selig spoke, people listened. He had more. People were more in favor of Bud Selig, I think. But then Rob Manfred, the whole Astros scandal, the comments over the trophy, being a piece of metal, people have kind of just had it, and they they feel like this is a guy. I'm sure he does like the game of baseball. People just think, is this the right guy, to be leading the way? And in the press conference the other day, and I don't think he's laughing at the fact that there was no negotiation done, but this is not a time to be, giggling. And
I think that the laughing thing I attribute to it's probably just a nervous tick.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like some people,
like a nervous sort of a thing. Like,
yeah,
I don't think it was like, but of course on the most magical place on earth, Twitter, people are like, "Oh my God, he's laughing," and just how there's people are writing articles about it, and so I think people need to get that out of the way. Rob Manfred is not at fault for any of this. I mean, who knows what he's doing in the negotiations, how he's sounding, but Bill Madden actually did, say he was actually more helpful during these negotiations. I feel like, he was trying to get, the owners to come together, and I guess Madden, I forget, I'm paraphrasing, but basically saying he was a good influence, I guess.
So Manfred, I'll just so everyone knows my stance on Manfred. I'm not a fan. I also am not going to. I'm not calling for his job. Like I don't want his job. I think that he makes mistakes.
Yeah.
I do think if we had to, pick, if we got to pick a commissioner for the time that we're in right now, we would probably pick somebody else. I don't know if he's the right man for the moment. I also don't think Tony Clark is the right man for the moment. And so that's my feeling on it. I'm not pro owner. I do believe the players should try to get as much money as they can because the system is a little, when you compare it to other sports, when you look at how good and how talented and how just how the first 6 years of control listen, at the end of the day, I think the players should get as much as they can. I don't want to go on a super long rant about that. So that is my feeling on this. And that is why, I want to preface that before we get into the whole Bill Madden stuff, because I do think that there is a feeling there's so much pro player, the feelings out there. And of course there will be. And so if you say anything, some people will want to jump on you for being anti-player.
Go on Twitter, go on Reddit.
Right. If you say one thing, like one of the big popular things right now is that the owners have made no concessions. That's in the comments of the Scott Boras video that I have up right now, that the owners are 100% to blame. They have made no concessions. That's just the narrative. That is bullshit. That is BS narrative that has been put out there, and it's just flat out categorically wrong. And there are people out there that believe it because it's what they were told through, and I don't want to bust on players, but through Marcus Stroman's Twitter, through Whit Merrifield's Twitter, through Jock Peterson's Twitter, through Tyler Glasnow's Twitter. They're talking about going and working at Papa John's and McDonald's. Clint Frazier's going to go work at McDonald's. Good luck on that deal, McDonald's. Clint Frazier's always hurt. He's not going to show up to work. So, but the fact of the matter is, there's that narrative out there, and it is just wrong. And Bill Madden is defending it, and in the sense of making the claim that Scott Boras is the one that blew this thing up, it just sounds like he is pro player. When in fact, what he's really doing is he's laying out all of the things that were done and agreed to that got blown up by one man, Scott Boras, through his top client, Max Scherzer. Why the hell is Max Scherzer? Max Scherzer's got the highest AAV this year, and he's the one crying and complaining about this. Mike Trout has the biggest contract in baseball, and he's complaining about this. Okay, some of the stuff, it's just narrative stuff that I don't like.
It's funny that we're not hearing. Where are the comments from Vlad Guerrero Jr.? Where are the comments from Corbin Burns? Where
they can't, they shut them up. They shut them up because, the guys all in pre-arbitration, the Jonathan Indias and the Cedric Mullins and I believe Bo Bichette's got another year of pre-arbitration. They're all looking for that $150,000 raise, just to show up and get another $150K. It's nearly a third of the players, talking about the owners not giving anything and the owners being stingy. A third of the players would be getting the $150,000 bump. That's a ton of money. That you add that up, that is millions and millions and millions of dollars. Yeah. And oh, by the way, the pre-arbitration bonus pool, the $25 million, that was $0. That didn't exist. That is something the players wanted, and I know they wanted 100. That's what they wanted. They'd come down to 85. Right. They got as high as 115. The owners were not that receptive of it in the beginning, right? Countering that 115 with 10, sort of a slap in the face move, but they got it up to 25. It could have gone up to 40 if the players accepted the 14-team playoff situation, but so much has been lost. Let's go back, you and me, real quick, because we were both live. We were both refreshing Twitter. We were living off of every piece of information that came out that night, right? And we were getting information. I had, 20 people that I had notifications for. And the big piece that came out at one point that somehow has been lost was that A or B proposal that MLB put out. Evan Drellich tweeted it out. There was A or B, a 12-team playoff proposal or 14-team playoff proposal. And the players said, no way on the 14, we're going with the 12. So they had essentially agreed to the playoffs. They had agreed to that arbitration bonus pool. They had agreed to the minimum. The only thing they had to do, and it's why they broke, they were going to finish it up the next day, was the CBT. But Max Scherzer, who wasn't there that night, was there the next day. Word was out that Max Scherzer raised hell that next day. All of a sudden, we got nothing, and they unanimously voted no.
Yeah. So let's backtrack a little bit. Let's kind of recap everything. Yep. So these were the terms, according to Bill Madden, and from what we saw as well, these were the terms that were looking like they were going to be agreed upon. And it looked like they were smooth sailing to a deal at like 2 a.m. The universal DH, we heard about that a while ago. It looked like the minimum salary was probably going to be around $700,000. The bonus pool as well. It looked like that was, I think he said like 25 or 30 million. I can't fully remember.
Got to 25 million.
Yeah. The 12-team postseason, there was a moment where it was looking like it was going to be a 14 team. Like that was running wild on Twitter at one point. Yep. And once I saw that the owners were okay with going with a 12 team, I was like, okay.
Right. Me too. I was
God.
like,
wow, that might be it. Like they got the 12, like, because I thought that's what they were fighting for. And then there was another big concession that's not being reported out there all that much. And this is in favor of the players. No more draft pick compensation for when a player's offered a qualifying offer, a team no longer has to give up a draft pick. Right. So when Trevor Story, if he signs somewhere, the Rockies offered him the qualifying offer, a team will not have to give up a draft pick for that. So
that's huge.
Yeah. To me, like, the players did make concessions as well. They gave up on some things. They gave up the 5-year to free agency instead of 6. That was definitely a concession that they made in the beginning. But the owners, and while I don't agree with the term non-starter, I always think something can be talked about all the time. But that is also something that's not really, you're hearing this thing out there where I'm seeing this on Twitter. Oh, the owners are not being fair. They didn't even talk with the players for, over a month or whatever. The owners said to him, listen, we're not doing the 6 to 5 year, arbitration to free agency. We're just not doing it. And the players were not coming back. Once, Major League Baseball, they said, hey, we're not doing that. The players, they didn't show up either. So I don't mean to cut you off, but I do want to address this because we have somebody in the chat that has exactly done what I said was going to happen in the beginning. This baseball, this guy is stealing your bit. Sorry if you do this too, whatever. I'm not defending owners, then immediately defends owners for 5 straight minutes, cut his feet. Let's talk about that for 2 seconds. Bro, here's the situation, okay? If you can't hear both sides of the argument, then what are you doing? You have to be able to consume both sides of the argument. If you start to hear somebody say what the owners are doing and all you're hearing is, I'm pro-owner, I'm pro-owner, I'm pro-owner, and you don't hear the details, then you're not informed. You have to be able to take both sides of the information. These are facts. This is not stuff that we're making up. Oh, woe is the players. We're not making this up. There are
probably 6 or 7 concessions or whatever, if you don't want to use the word concessions, offerings, whatever, that the owners have made in this deal, that you have been fed by the players, that, because this quote came out after Tuesday's unanimous vote, that the owners want the players to lose money, and it's categorically false. And I'm not, what I didn't say is that I wasn't going to defend the owners. I'm saying I'm not pro owner. I think the owners deserve to give the players more money, but to take a look at this thing and say that the players are going to lose money, that this is 100% on the owners, it's not. This deal was done. This is on Scott Boras. And if you are pro player, even if you're anti-owner, you should be mad at Scott Boras. He is manipulating the players in this situation. We could have a deal. We could have baseball. This is on Scott Boras. I'm not saying this is on the players. It's on the owners. It's on one man, Scott Boras. I just wanted to address Mr. Baseball.
We're going to dig into Scott Boras here in a little bit. So we talked about the terms that were agreed upon, and just to build off of what you were saying as well. Scott Boras is definitely influencing. We'll get to that too, but it's also the media as well. The media, they are definitely, and again, I am definitely pro player, but at the end of the day, I am pro fan. That's what I am at the end of the day. I'm always going to look at it from both angles. I understand. I guarantee you, people that own a business, people that, pay employees, have to do the insurance and all that stuff. I guarantee you, if a lot of these people are on Twitter and Reddit and whatever, they opened up a business and they started all these, having to do all those kind of things, logistics and whatnot, guarantee their thought process would probably change a little bit, because I think just people don't seem to really understand what kind of goes into a business. And at the end of the day, I do think the owners need to compensate these players a bit, more. And they were offering some things. I personally think they needed to come up a little higher on a couple of things, but I do think at the end of the day, you see the arguments for both sides. And for us to, me and you, I feel like we're trying to be the content creators out here where we're giving arguments for both sides, and we let you choose, what you want to do. I'm not going to be out here and telling you what you should think. I'm just saying, I'm looking at it from both angles. And there's a lot of arguments for both sides. Both sides have made concessions. Both sides have definitely had faults. The owners, again, right at the end, I felt like they should have come up a little bit. And, but I digress. Anyway, but let's kind of get into
the fans lose, and also the businesses that are around the stadium, the people that are around the stadium that count on those jobs, they lose. And again, this is not because of the owners, not because of the players, it's because of Scott Boras.
And let's kind of make our way towards that. So it looked like, according to Bill Madden on the Mad Dog podcast, what is that podcast called again? What is it?
So he had it's his actual radio channel on satellite radio is Mad Dog Radio, and they have programming throughout the day. He has the show sort of the PM drive time slot on the channel, but that's his channel, satellite radio. Similar to how they, hired Howard Stern and gave Howard Stern a channel and program it with all of his content. Chris Russo, now they don't program with all his content. He has other hosts on throughout the day, but he has that's his thing. He was in New York forever on the Fan, Mike and the Mad Dog forever, and then they split off, and he's got the satellite radio thing now.
Yeah. So what Bill Madden was saying, what they were discussing, this was kind of where things started to get a bit hairy a little bit. This is when the negotiations kind of started to break down a little bit. So it's when the CBT was brought up. According to Bill Madden, it looks like the CBT was the holdup. The owners were proposing $220 million for the next 3 seasons for 2022, 2023, 2024. And then it was going to go up. I forget what the final amount was. It was going to be in 2026. I believe it was like 236, I believe, something in that range. However, the players wanted to start at, I forgot the million, 238 million. So they wanted to start at, so they wanted 18 more million for this year. And which that would be an increase of 28 million from this past season. Just so happens, oh man, these top players, they're making right around that. 28, 30 million per year. Huh.
Yeah.
I wonder what's the agent out there that has a lot of these high priced players. Oh, Scott Boras.
Right.
Oh.
And a lot of those players are in that room with these meetings and in these negotiations.
Yeah. So it makes a lot of sense. So the players, what their problem is, they are looking at the CBT as a salary cap. And to me, yes, the Yankees, they have been notorious for trying to stay under it. And Yankee fans, it drives them nuts because they want, the old George Steinbrenner back, but Hal Steinbrenner wants to, save those pennies where he can. And, but there have been teams that have gone over that luxury tax line. My Red Sox did in 2019. Look how that went. Padres this past year. Look how that went. So players, they're looking at it where they think the owners are looking at it where they don't want to go over it. So it's essentially being looked at as a salary cap. But I mean, hey, look at the Dodgers. They blew right through it this past season. The Mets are going to, whatever it ends up being, they're going to blow right through it.
Yeah. The Mets are already over. Whatever the number is going to be, the Mets are over it.
The Mets are going, and I'm just going to point this out. There's all this talk about owners like losing money. No, owners are making money. Of course they are.
Yeah.
They're definitely making money, but not all teams are in the same position. When you're looking at an average, yeah, sure, these teams are making a good amount, but then there's these other teams, they're not. And, small market teams, I think small market teams are becoming a bit of a problem. 4 of them actually voted against the CBA, but they only need 23 owners to approve. Right. So it was fine. But these small market teams are kind of hanging up things a little bit. But either way, the CBT, to me, you can go over it. It's a soft cap. And I don't know. What do you think about the CBT personally?
Well, it's interesting. One of the elements that the players union put out in their statement was that they wanted to take care of the youth in the game. I think that where the minimum salary was going to was achieving that. They wanted to make sure that competition was maintained in the game. And I think they were doing that by instituting this lottery and trying to remove tanking. They were doing that and keep, in the amount of postseason teams. And the other element was that they wanted to make sure that the market of the game, the financial elements of the game remained intact. And that wasn't the exact quote, but it was along the lines. It was a financial thing. I don't have it in front of me, but the fact of the matter is, can you stand by that last statement if you're trying to get that luxury tax, that CBT, up as high as possible when you've got Pittsburghs and Baltimores and Arizona and teams that are going to be in the 60, 70, $80 million payroll, and you've got the other half of the league going over 220, 230, 240. That doesn't make sense, because it does make sense to institute a floor, but I don't think we would add that economic element into these negotiations. We're having a tough time as it is to get a deal done. You're going to start negotiating about a floor, then this is going to drag out even longer. So, that's my feeling about the CBT is, it's the 220 for 3 years, and then it went up a couple $1 million for the 2 final years of the deal. It's a meet. They're close enough to where they can meet in the middle, or pretty damn close to meet in the middle. That feels like something that, through concessions, through I'll give you this if you give me that, if you want that, negotiation 101 type stuff. Yeah. That feels like something that could have been worked out. They're close enough on that. I feel like they could have worked that out on that final day. I don't see that as being something that, it's not that far apart. Unless we go back to the owner saying we're going back to 210 and the players are, well, we want 238. Like then it starts to get sticky again. But they were getting close.
Yeah, the way I feel about the CBT, and in a way, I'm kind of, and I don't know, maybe I'm not thinking of it clearly, but to me, I would like the CBT to be 225. That's a $15 million increase. And one of the players' arguments is, and again, I think the players should get compensated. I'm not pro owner. I think the players, they want to start at 238. That would be a $28 million increase. That's another, that could be somewhere around like a Carlos Correa being added to your payroll. I'm okay with 225 because that would be a $15 million increase. Mm-hmm. They say, oh, well, we're looking at these guys, like the non-superstars in the league. Well, $15 million increase, that could be a couple more relievers. That could be a reliever and a bench player that could find a spot on a team, instead of adding a superstar kind of a player. Like when I think of I think the CBT should come up a little bit, but that way you can add, it gives you a little more flexibility for, some more role players, mm-hmm. Guys that might have a tough time, getting a contract or so out there on the market. Well, I just think a little bit is a happy medium. I don't think it should be 240,
and at the end of the day, this is really going to impact 5 or 6 teams that are going to get close to that level and have to make a decision. Do we sign Chris Bryant and blow past the threshold, or do we stay where we are? This is really going to impact 5 or 6 teams. If you go back and you look at last year's salaries, last year's payrolls, there are only a handful of teams that approached the number. And now maybe you could say, well, they did that because they didn't sign the $30 million guy because they didn't want to get close to it. So again, let's say that this is impacting, if you don't want to say this is impacting only 3 or 4 teams, you want to say it's impacting 6 or 7, fine. It's still only impacting 6 or 7 teams. And I don't see that being it's a bigger win for the players to get the found money in the arbitration bonus pool. It's a bigger win for the players to get the minimum salary up to $700,000 than it is to get another 5 or 10 or $15 million on the CBT, because that again will only impact a select number of players and a handful of teams. So now we're starting to get to the minority of the teams and the number of players that impacts, whereas that arbitration bonus pool and the minimum salary impacts a third of the league. It's just to get hung up on that and to fight over that. That's why it just doesn't, the way that this fell apart and blew up on Tuesday just doesn't smell right. And to me, that gives more weight to Bill Madden's comments. And some people will notice it did sound like during the interview that Madden has an axe to grind with Scott Boras. Now, I addressed that in the comments of the video. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to make stuff up, but what it does mean is he's not going to hold anything back.
Yeah, he has nothing to lose.
He's going to say something. He's got owners and he's got other agents that are his sources. He hasn't given the names, but he says he's got agents and owners. He's got both sides. He did his journalistic due diligence on this before going on the air.
Like it should. And, and again, that's why it's just been so, and again, I am for the players. Like we said, I feel like a million times already, we are in favor of the players. We want them to get compensated, especially the younger players. They definitely, come on, someone like Vlad Jr., this guy was just a monster this past year, and he's making, $650 or whatever it is,
and he's not going to make that a big payday for another 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a good system for the players. But the problem is to fix that, to change that, you can't get that done in one swipe. You can't get that done in one CBA negotiation. That what I was hoping the players would do is think about this as a long-term thing. Here's a thought. The next time that we're in a CBA negotiation, Vladdy and Fernando Tatis and all of the, Wander Franco, they're still going to be in their 20s. We're 5 years away from doing this again. So the rookies that are coming up that will make their debuts in 2022 will not even be unrestricted free agents yet by the next time that we do this. So there is the deal they signed last time 5 years ago was not a good deal for the players, but you can't, they're not just going to fix that all in one deal. This was a very good step in the right direction.
It was a great step. Yes. To me, that's what like you're saying, I looked at it as a long-term thing. They shot themselves in the foot in the last CBA. They're the ones that were like, oh yeah, we want, more, what's the word? I can't think of the
fluff.
word.
There were more, fluffy things in there.
Like more stuff for travel and stuff like that. All these other things. and they just shot themselves in the foot. And who was the leader of the Players Association? Tony Clark.
I do not. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Tony Clark.
That also kind of makes me think because, and let's start getting into Scott Boras a little bit. I haven't heard anything about Tony Clark in this whole thing. Like, no one has said anything about Tony Clark, and like everyone's talking about Rob Manfred.
Yep.
But like Rob Manfred he's in the negotiations and whatnot. He's there, but he's talking for 30 owners. I haven't heard one thing about Tony Clark at all. And now I'm hearing about Scott Boras. Is Scott Boras the one that's running things? Where's Tony Clark? Like, he's got this big white beard, and I don't know where the heck he is. I haven't heard one thing about him.
There is nothing out there that is anti-player at the end of the day.
No, there's not. And that's why, like, to me, does anyone notice that? Like, when everything is so one-sided, especially, I'm sorry, the media to me these days, hey, sorry, a lot of stuff gets debunked these days, very much so in the media. I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But when you're noticing there is such a heavy lean towards which, and again, I do understand, I get it, but there's like no other argument. And, and also getting to Jeff Passan a little bit, him and David Sampson were going at it. I know David Sampson was not the best executive out there. I understand he had some strings pulled for him a little bit over there in Miami, but at the end of the day, the guy understands front office stuff. I'm not saying he was amazing at it, but he at least has an understanding of it more than anyone on Twitter land does. And way more than me and you do. But he said something about the Braves revenue or something, and Jeff Passan came at him, and then David's like, hey, we can come talk about it on the podcast, because he has his own little podcast or whatever.
Right. Seize the opportunity. That was a good job.
Right. He's like, come and talk about it. Like, and then there was no response ever. And it's like, because Jeff knows if he goes on there, he would lose. Like he would get his argument, maybe not lose, but it won't fit his narrative. And and Jeff Passan, Evan Drellick, they're trying to get you to sign up for their subscriptions. That's what it is. At the end of the day, Jeff Passan wants ESPN Plus subscribers. Evan Drellick, they want subscribers, $60 per year for the Athletic, New York Times, or whoever bought them out when they said that they were going to overtake the entire sports media landscape, and then they sold themselves out. I digress. But let's get into Scott Boras. So Scott Boras, this is the title of it. So this is the 200 people that are here right now. Let's get into the juicy parts. So according to Bill Madden, it was looking like Scott Boras might have been the reason for it, for the talks breaking apart. So as I have here on this slide, Scott Boras was a big problem. According to Bill Madden, he was urging the players to turn down the deal. And one funny thing is that many players, I think it's over 10% of players in the players union. I could be wrong. Check me on that if I'm wrong, but it's at least 10% of players in the players union. It could be way more than that. I think I have that number right. I read it somewhere. But either way, many players in the players union are represented by Scott Boras, and put two and two together. Scott Boras, I mean, hey, this guy's an agent. He's making money. He's getting a percentage of the money that these guys are, these contracts that they're getting. And then Max Scherzer, one of his biggest clients, who just got $130 million, and we were hearing this, this was actually something that was being reported on The Athletic, that Max Scherzer was very tough to deal with. He was really speaking up. And funny thing, Bill Madden, let's come back here. Bill Madden was saying that Scherzer was kind of going crazy during these meetings. Like, he was loud, he was yelling. That's what
he was. Mad Max. He was Mad Max.
He was Mad Max. I mean, look at the guy. You can't even give him a tap on the rear end, and he'll go. If you do that, he'll go crazy. He'll say, "Don't effing touch me." The guy's a kind of a lunatic. But sometimes that's a really good thing. I mean, let's be real. Look at the way he reacted over the whole, checking for the sticky stuff or whatever. He kind of threw a tantrum out in the field. It's not surprising to hear that someone like Max Scherzer, the way he was with that whole thing, he's being very similar in these meetings. And of course, it's probably a passionate thing. It's an emotional thing. And, these guys, both people on both sides want to stand their ground, but it just so happens that Max Scherzer, who just got the biggest AAV in baseball history, is a Scott Boras client. So, and it looked like they were about to get a deal done. And then someone all of a sudden got a little message from a little birdie saying, "Oh, no, get up out of that room right now and get out of there," or whatever. So we were sitting here at 2 a.m. Everything was looking great. Bob Nightingale was a hero. Everyone was happy. The complete shift on Twitter, you could see it. Everyone was like jumping up and down. Oh my God, we're going to get baseball back. And then bam, just gone. And then
when Max got back, Max was back the next day. He wasn't there that night. And then that was the day we almost had a deal.
Right.
I will say this, to be fair to Max, the comment about the whole being checked for the sticky stuff, his freak out, I do believe that was when Joe Girardi asked him to be checked in the middle of an inning. It wasn't during the inning change. It was in the middle of pitching to it was in the middle of batters. So he did freak out about that. I do think he was justified in that. But what he's not justified in is to go out there and be maybe the reason why the Mets will go over the luxury tax threshold and say that teams are treating the luxury tax like a salary cap. The Stones, to be the guy that's going to put the Mets over the luxury tax, but then to say that teams are treating the luxury tax like a hard salary cap, that feels like a message that maybe didn't originate with him. Maybe that I don't know. This is just this is reckless speculation. I like to say sometimes. This was not in the Bill Madden piece. This was just my feeling. Maybe that bit of information came from somebody else.
Yeah, and it feels like it's adding up. And usually, and again, getting back to Bill Madden, it's one of those things where it's like he is saying something very different from what you're hearing from everyone
everywhere.
And that it's funny enough how that usually ends up being true, and so who knows if it's exactly true,
well, I would
every single part, but
I wish there was something more out there. Yesterday, when I heard about this, I've got a buddy who actually works in the radio industry, and he was telling me, he was like, "Hey, did you hear the latest rumor?" I'm like, "What's that?" It's like, "It's that Boras blew up the deal." I'm like, "What? Who's saying that?" And he told me who it was, and I went. First thing I did is I went on Google looking for it. I
nothing.
Searched Bill Madden, Scott Boras, nothing. I'm like, wait a minute.
I literally, I searched every way.
So I messaged him back. I'm like, where did he say it? And he told me where he said it. I went and I found the clip, and I'm like, this is interesting. And the fact that two things: the fact that it's Bill Madden, a lifer, a baseball Hall of Fame writer. He has written countless books on the game. Just because he's kind of retired, kind of not retired, doesn't mean we should take his word for any less. If Bob Woodward puts a piece of information out, Bob Woodward, who broke the Watergate scandal, Bob Woodward's like, oh, what Bob Woodward have to say? But for this with Bill Madden, everyone's ignoring it, and I don't like that. And Chris Russo, who is a lifer, so I when I look at those two, I'm like, that's enough credibility for me to talk about this. I feel like, and it was asked in this, the brethren, Chris Russo asked him, why are you the only one out here? Why is your brethren? Why are other writers not saying anything about this? And it's because they have relationships. They don't want to damage the relationships that they have. So I wish there was more out there. I hope that, me putting it out, that's why I put it out there. I feel like just needs to be noise about this. There needs to be more noise about this, because I think what Tony Clark and Max and Andrew Miller and what they're filtering down through the rest of the players union is the good, the good speak, right? Follow us. We know what we're doing. We have a plan. So that's where you're getting all this other messaging throughout, the other players taking to social media. But there just needs to be noise about this. There needs to be some doubt so that, Jock Peterson can go to Max and be like, what the hell is this real? And maybe Max gets pressed from the bottom up to maybe get just something more noise. So I appreciate you doing this and wanting to talk about it. There's another account, a guy with his Yankees. I think it's 161 River. He was talking about it today. There needs to be more noise about this. And if Jeff Passan and Ken Rosenthal and Bob Nightingale and all of the other established media guys aren't going to do it, then it's, I guess it's up to us, sort of at the bottom of the barrel, to try to knock this thing over and get something going for it.
And I'm wondering if these mainstream guys, I'm kind of just kind of rattling through some thoughts, but I'm wondering if these mainstream guys like Rosenthal, Passan, Drellick, they don't want to ruin any or step on any toes, or they don't want to, maybe they know about this stuff, but they're not like, putting it out there. Because I wonder, because really, let's think about what their value is, Passan bombs, Drellick bombs, Evan Drellick interviewing players, Jeff Passan talking with players, their value at the end of the day is the players. And so if they know about it, Jeff Passan during trade deadline, the guy's all over it. And that, to me, that's his value.
Scott Boras puts out a memo. Yeah, he said Passan's done. If Scott Boras puts out a memo, then Passan's done. Right.
Yeah, and then they go get someone else that's going to be, do what ESPN wants them to do. They have to know about it. Like there's no way, but they have to go to a certain narrative at the end of the day. I'm not saying they're just like they're doing anything bad, I guess. I just don't think they're being as transparent as they should be. I feel like the fair way to report this is to look at both angles, and because at the end of the day, again, I do feel like the owners did fall a little short on a couple of things, but I feel like they really, if you don't want to call it a good deal that they proposed in the end, it was definitely negotiable. It was definitely, and that's where also I think they messed up too, where they said, okay, this is our final offer before the deadline. That should not have been said.
That was a mistake.
No, you keep
mistake.
going. No, there's no 5 o'clock deadline. Like, no.
And like, that's another reason. That's another reason why you can rip Rob Manfred. He's out there that day. He's pressed about that in his conference about the whole best and final. And he said, we didn't say that. We didn't say that. But there were enough reporters out there with sources. And then the player side during their press conference say that, this is what they said. Now, we don't, the press conference for the players, they said, we don't believe this is best and final forever. This was just their best and final by the 5 o'clock deadline. So then when they get negotiations started again, they'll kind of work off of that last proposal from the owners. And I really don't think they're that far apart, but we'll see.
But you just got to wonder. So an update on today. We'll get into a couple more Scott Boras things here in just a minute. But today, my voice is hanging by a thread. I see Derek in the chat. Where did it go? Don't die on us, Robbie. I'm hanging by a thread.
What's up, Derek? Good to see you.
Man, I just drank all my tea too, so we're in trouble. But today the head negotiators for both sides, it ended up being 2 from both sides. I forget the names. I know one of them, their last name is Sword. But 2 of the top negotiators, they did meet today. No substantial talks, but it's worrisome because it is a little worrisome to me because, you broke apart. Do you start back up where you were, or are all of a sudden all these new things going to start getting put into play? That's where it gets, but I can, and maybe I'll play a little devil's advocate here where maybe Scott Boras wanted to, or not Scott Boras, Manfred, and I'm not defending him. I'm just saying maybe this was their rationale behind the deadline, where maybe they wanted to call the deadline because maybe they felt like Boras was starting to get, a little too chummy, and it was just getting too much. And they just said, you know what, like, forget it. We'll give you till 5, I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but I wonder if that was maybe their rationale. Like, it was a power play on them.
Well, deadlines have been working. The whole deadline, that Monday deadline, the 28th, that worked. We had not seen that kind of momentum built up at all during this entire process. And finally, when there was a deadline to cancel games, they finally were making things happen. So it was working. And if the owners went into that final day, they gave the extension to 5 o'clock. It was probably because they figured, hey, we got to figure out the CBT. That's it. Now, if you remember on Tuesday, we came into Tuesday knowing 5 o'clock was the deadline, right? It's not like 5 o'clock was a deadline that was imposed at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We knew that when they broke at 2:45 in the morning, that the deadline was 5 o'clock the next afternoon, or at least it was made public a couple hours after. And there was this, they got there at 10, and there was this long period of quiet. It was quiet. Silence. And everyone was like, well, what's happening after last night? I tweeted about it after the flurry of activity, the back and forth. We at one point on Monday night / Tuesday morning, we had, I want to say, 5 meetings in the time span of an hour and a half. Now, these meetings lasted like 5 or 10 minutes, but there's a lot of activity, a lot of back and forth was happening. So we get there on Tuesday, 10 o'clock, they all get there. And nothing in the 10 o'clock hour, nothing in the 11 o'clock hour. And they were caucusing amongst themselves, and there was a breakdown there at some point, and we just it fell apart. The momentum fell apart that Tuesday, and the players are out there saying that the mood never changed, and I'm not getting into that. But what I am getting into, just look at it for yourself. Don't listen to what any of the players have said. Don't listen to what any of the owners have said. Take it for yourself. Think about what was going on Monday night and how much activity there was. And then on Tuesday, there was basically nothing. There was silence. There was no back and forth. Everyone figured, well, maybe they're on Zoom, maybe they're texting, maybe they're calling. There was nothing until Major League Baseball said, we're going to give you our best and final. And that was basically it. So just looking at it yourself, something changed.
Yeah, and I do think Scott Boras had some influence. I completely agree, or believe Bill Madden in that regard, because at the end of the day, Scott Boras, he has a lot to gain, because he's looking out for himself, and he's convincing these players like, oh no, you need that CBT to be higher. You guys got screwed on the last CBT. You need to, no way, leave the table.
There's a couple ways I think that you can think about this. You can think about it as Scott Boras being greedy, right? You can certainly, you're justified in thinking of it that way, because he represents his firm anyway, represents over 170 players. There's 1,200 players on 40-man rosters across baseball. He represents 175, and the majority of them are the high-paying people, the players that are looking for the big salaries, and that's who he's representing. So he doesn't want to be hampered by a salary cap / luxury tax situation. You can say that. And I actually lean a little bit more this way. I lean a little bit more in the area of Scott Boras believes he can get the players more if more time and more meetings occur. And that is so in maybe his heart of hearts, Scott Boras thinks he's doing the right thing for the baseball players. What he's not doing the right thing for is the sport. He's not doing the right thing for the fans. He's not doing the right thing for the people who work at the stadiums. It's the wrong thing for all of those people. And at the end of the day, Scott Boras doesn't know if what they did on Tuesday will lead to the owner saying, forget you guys. You know what? That's our last and final. You guys want to sit out the season? Sit out the season. That is what Scott Boras doesn't know. And I pray to God, I hope to God that doesn't happen. So you can look at it two ways. Scott Boras being greedy, or Scott Boras being a shrewd negotiator, trying to get the best deal for his clients. And to do that, because, I think we all can agree that logic would say if more time and more meetings happen, MLB will give more to the players. But again, it's not a win for the fans. It's not a win for everybody else involved.
Like, if you can get yourself a $200 million bonus pool, $2 million minimum salary, then I'm all for it. Absolutely. Oh, there goes my voice. But I'm all for it. So you absolutely, yes, if you get as much as you can, where I'm coming from, and maybe I haven't been too clear on this, I am looking at the long-term health of the game, you know, because of this, the players, you know, last CBT, they shot themselves in the foot. They're trying to get themselves out of the mud as much as they can. But is that going to be good for the long-term health of the game? That's where I don't know if that clears anything up for anyone. I'm all for absolutely, you know, as a teacher, yeah, if the union can go get me an extra, you know, $3,000 on top of my salary, absolutely. I'm not going to be mad at that.
Right.
Who are you kidding? But if you're going to shoot yourselves in the foot long term, well, then is it worth it? You know, only time will tell.
As somebody who is rooting for the players in this situation, I am. It may not sound like it because, again, if you start saying anything that even remotely sounds like it might be anti-player, a lot of people tune you out and all they hear is, I'm pro-owner. I'm pro-owner. I'm not. I want the players to get every cent that they can out of this. But if Scott Boras is pulling the strings, I worry about the integrity of the sport, the health of the sport, the future. My son loves to play baseball. When he's ready to, you know, go play high school ball and college baseball and you know, down the road at 15, 20 years, I want there to be a healthy, thriving sport for him to try to get into. I don't want baseball to go down the road that NHL did. NHL ended up having this terrible lockout. It hurt the sport so much so that it basically disappeared from television. ESPN dropped the deals. You couldn't find hockey on anywhere outside of the local networks. They lost all the national TV deals. I don't want baseball to go that route.
Yeah, you know, and getting back to what you said, like I'm not saying I'm pro owner. I mean, I had one of the other big baseball YouTubers on Twitter over this past weekend coming after me on Twitter, you know, retweeting some of the things I was saying. And, you know, it's like, to me, you know, people need to just listen more. People need to just hear people out a little bit more. You know, if you have a different opinion, you know, you have a conversation about it.
It's okay. I say it on the channel all the time. There are no bylaws to ball cap sports where we have to agree. Disagreeing is fine. Just don't be an ass about it. If you disagree with somebody, you might actually learn something because obviously they have a different point of view. They're looking at something differently. Maybe they have information you don't have. Listen if there's a disagreement. I had a disagreement with somebody about the Jose Ramirez trade because I kept pumping down Jose Ramirez to the Blue Jays and I was giving the Indians a bunch of infielders. And he's like, man, at first it was that trade's never going to happen. You're crazy. You know, all this stuff. And we started talking about it. And he starts going down about, you know, because he's closer to the Indians, right? He's watching the broadcasts, listening to the local radio shows, doing all that stuff. That's more than I do for Cleveland, the Guardians. I'm sorry. And we started talking about it. He's like, dude, listen, at the end of the day, he's like, we need outfielders. That was it. The prospects need to be outfielders. Okay, fine. I'll give you a ton of outfielders for Jose Ramirez. Line them up. All the Blue Jay prospect outfielders. Go. So listening to people when there's a disagreement, it's okay. I think it can be healthy if done, not in an assholey kind of way.
Yeah, and you know, getting back to what I was saying, where this other big baseball YouTuber, whatever, the name is fuzzy. I'm sure everyone's heard of him. He was coming after me on Twitter.
Was he really?
Oh yeah. I was just, you know, presenting, I was asking questions, like, and he basically was just like, oh, what is wrong with you? Like, blah, blah, like, you know, and I was like, you know, you don't have to be so dismissive. You know, you can just have a conversation. And then we ended up having, you know, a conversation elsewhere, and he understood what I was saying. And it was just like, but it's like, why did we have to go that route? You know, like, why did it have to start that way? That way? Why couldn't it be that way?
It was on Twitter.
Yeah,
it's because it was on Twitter.
Me, you know, like, of course he's gonna win the light game out of that. But I held my own with a few likes as well. And but you know, it's just, it is what it is. And to me, I'm someone, it's crazy. People just like, they want to win a war, you know, but it's like, why is winning why do you have to win? You know, why can't you should a compromise and an understanding be the win? and I think the players and the owners can learn a lot from that. And, and I don't know. I think just, again, 1994, people holding up signs, the fans lose. It's the same thing. How do you not see it? So one more thing before we kind of wrap things up.
Sure.
Just a couple of more things to talk about with Scott Boras, where, how do these non-Scott Boras players feel? Guys that are not represented by Scott Boras, I guarantee you there's a lot of players that are like, okay, like, dude, I'm a free agent, man. Like, I want to go sign somewhere. I need to know where my family's going to move. I need to know where I'm going to be living, just everything. They need some of these players could, sure, they care. They probably want some more money out of it, but, they need to figure out their own life. Guys that are not making $30 million a year, guys that are making, maybe 5-7, bullpen arms, someone like Archie Bradley, he probably wants to know where he's going to be going.
There's a chance that there are players that because of this, because of how quickly everything is going to have to go down, that maybe would have found a major league contract under a long drawn out free agent period, might have a hard time catching on with the team or getting anything other than a minor league contract because of this, because of what's going on.
Right. And then the other thing to think about too, it's the other agents. These other agents, they're out there trying to do some work, these smaller, sports agency companies that are not Scott Boras, they're trying to make a living here too. And I'm sure, of course, they're going to end up being fine, but, they are representing their own players. And of course, according to Bill Madden, they're furious. They're not happy, with Scott Boras, getting involved. And I can completely understand that, like there are people in this situation who I guarantee will not speak up because they're not going to go, you
can't. You can't. You're going against the entire union if you speak up. You can't speak up. And I understand that. I respect that. I get that. We're not going to have a player step out of line. But what you could have, if this information is out there, what you could have internally, you could have some guys reaching out saying, yo, what's going on here? What's the plan? What is the actual plan for what's happening?
I guarantee there are. I guarantee guys are texting amongst themselves like, dude, what is going on? Like I guarantee you one of those guys who had like he was in pre-arbitration in his, second season, had a pretty good season last year, had like a 3.2 WAR, solid player for a team. I guarantee he's out there thinking like, dude, I would really like that 700,000 minimum salary. That sounds pretty good.
Right.
And again, I understand, they know they're just, there's other things in play as well.
And minor league players, think about, so minor league players, we can have a minor league season, but minor league players can't get called up to the big leagues right now. They won't be able to get called up to the big leagues. So that big pay raise, there was a big uproar that was caused a month or so ago about how much minor league players get paid. And everybody was upset about that. Well, guess what this does to all of you that were upset about minor league players don't get paid enough. They're getting, it's ridiculous. They're making no money. I make more money at Target. Okay.
Oh, they got their housing now. They're fine.
Those players can't get called up to the big leagues to get the 6-figure contract because there is no big leagues right now. And let's say there's a player. So Josh Jung just got hurt for the for the Rangers, right?
Yeah.
What if that had happened in 2 months? And he didn't, and he missed the whole season. He misses a year in the big leagues because of the injury. I'm not saying so, because what happened to Josh Jung, that injury will happen to somebody else who will miss out on a big league call up because of the fact that there will be no big leagues for a month's time here. So there are wide reaching problems here. And again, those of you that are overwhelmingly pro player, I want the best for the players. You should be mad about this too. You should be mad about this Boras news too, because there are just so many negative side effects to it.
Yeah, and then you got these players out there that are like, the young players of the game, this is for you. And it's like, Well,
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
they can't play. Like, I guarantee you, Vlad Jr., the Blue Jays, they want to get on the field. Like
Totally.
that could be a World Series championship team this year, in my personal opinion. I guarantee Bo Bichette, Vlad, Kevin Biggio probably wants to get out there and have a redemption season. Like, these guys want to get out there.
They want to get out there. They want to play. Jordan Groshans wants to go out there, have a monster first month down at AAA and earn a call-up. But, oh, wait, there's no call-up to happen because there's no baseball. Major League Baseball is still in a lockout. That kind of stuff will happen. That's a side effect that nobody's thinking about or talking about. And then what if Jordan Groshan goes out? Finally baseball gets going 2 weeks into the baseball season, but let's say we're 2 months into the minor league season and he rolls his ankle and he's out for the rest of the year. And then Jordan Groshan misses his chance. I don't just listen. I mean, it's just there's things that could happen that if you're for the players, you want the best deal for the players. What happened with the Scott Boras thing should make you angry. You forget all the stuff like owners thinking that someone's a pro owner. It's just this was a bad outcome for the players, and it's on.
Everyone failed. Everyone made mistakes. It's not one side. Both did. But during our talk, this was a good talk.
Yeah, man.
I really wanted to really dig into this whole Scott Boras thing because I've had this stance from the very beginning. And when I saw the audio that you put, I'm like, okay, that just proves my point just a little bit further. But during this nice, lovely conversation, we got some super chats. So
awesome.
Let's kind of go through them. Sure. Ted Harrington, a $10 dono. Holy crap, he says, both on the same video. This is awesome. I do not have to watch 2 videos at once. That's the power of the collab.
There you go.
Of the collab. Which, hey, we might have to start doing more of over the next month. Hopefully, there goes that voice. Hopefully, we see baseball May to June, somewhere in there. I'm hoping.
Got to be May. It has to be May 1st. If it's not May 1st, then we're really going to get into the sport being damaged.
I could see May. I'd say the week of May 2nd.
Yeah,
I'm being optimistic, but whatever. But Ted, thank you for the $10 super chat. We had a couple more. Tom Amiano, best collab of all time.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that. We both, I think we've both got quite a bit of traffic from the streams the other night. So
the excitement. There was so much excitement about it, right?
Yeah.
There was so much excitement. It was all building up. And that's what's cool. That's what's fun. That's what I really enjoy about doing this is the excitement to be there and to share this with other baseball fans is really fun.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. It's that was, of course I didn't realize how much damage I was doing to my vocal cords that night, but it is what it is.
Right.
James Solario, stop teaching, do this full time. This should help. I've been saying for a little while that I would love to do this full time. I still am I was still hanging on to, I still love teaching. I do. The current county that I'm in, the current school, I feel like I do need a bit of a change. I feel like this weekend I'm actually going to a job fair in a different county for teaching. So it might end up being that I maybe teach for a little longer, and build up those savings a little bit, So
there you go.
We'll see. But this is the goal, is to do this full time down the road. I just love doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But James, appreciate that, my friend. William Fulgham, he's been around forever. Do you believe this might hurt Scott in the future with young players not getting him as an agent? Interesting question.
I don't think it will. That's my feeling. You may have I don't think it will because, if this ultimately leads to if this only leads to not playing in April and an extra 10 million in the bonus pool and the CBT going up another 5 million, if this leads to just 25 less games, but increases, I think players will look at this as a win for Scott Boras at the end of the day.
Yeah. I think maybe there could be a player or two out there that maybe are just like, dude, what is this guy doing?
I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are.
But at the end of the day, money talks. So one of my favorite YouTube usernames, the lonely wolf who howls alone at the moon. Sup, Robbie? How was your day? I was back to work today. I actually took the last 2 days off, went back to school, and did not say a word at all. I used Google Translate on my computer and was talking to my kids that way. And believe it or not, I'm actually I have a potato for a brain, but my classroom management skills, I will toot my own horn on that. And I actually sort of looked at today as kind of fun because I was able to manage a classroom without a voice. It's a lot harder than you would think. But lonely wolf who howls alone at the moon. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Great name. Great name.
More. It's a great name. I love when he drops something because it's always so fun to read.
I had a guy or gal, I don't, that was in the streams when I first started doing daily streams, and he doesn't come around anymore. Maybe he changed his name, but the name was All We Have Is Today. And it's such a profound name.
Yeah.
But it was with a question mark. It was All We Have Is Today with a question mark. So every time I saw his name, I accentuated the name. He didn't have to do a super chat. He didn't do anything. When I saw All We Have Is Today in the chat, that's how I always make sure I gave him a shout out.
There's some really good YouTube names out there. There was one, like it wasn't this, but I can't remember what it was, but it was like Seymour Butts. And like he had a name like that, and he dropped a super chat, and I read it out loud. I was like, "Oh, damn it, got me." What do we got here? JDS third, $5. Thank you. Other YouTubers want to keep access to their superstar players and heroes. Fuzzy John Boy and others are free PR for players. You got that right. Got that right. No comment from me. Yeah, that's as much as I'll say. JDS third, thank you so much. And that's another thing too. I am not going to, like, I had another baseball YouTuber out there saying, "Why aren't you pro player? You should be pro player. You're a content creator." Well, last time I checked, I feel like what we should be doing is being down the middle and being transparent and showing you both sides of the story. That to me is the most fair thing instead of just leaning one way. I don't know.
It's the hardest part. It's a hard thing to, it really isn't. It kind of drives me crazy when, listen, it's almost, I hate when, if you can see both sides of the situation, if you can see over both sides of the wall, that whatever side you're talking to, if they are on the other side of the wall, they're automatically putting you on the other side of the wall. Even if you are able to see and consume and understand and make a judgment call with both sets of information, they just throw you on the other side as anti, because that can be frustrating.
And unfortunately, I do think it is just society these days.
We can probably talk for hours on the societal issues. Holy Jesus.
It's society these days. Everyone needs to be on a team.
It's crazy. I just want to stay on YouTube all day long. If I didn't have kids, I would wake up, turn on the stream, just hang out, stream my day, and not go anywhere. Because
if I didn't have to go to school every day, I'm here.
It's scary out there.
But yeah, D'Augustine saying Robbie's poor voice. I am almost done here. I can't believe it doesn't sound terrible, considering we've been here for an hour. I thought it'd be a lot worse, but
you're hanging in.
We had another one from JDS third. CBA deal should benefit 70% of the players, not top earners wanting 500 million instead of 350 million. And that's another thing too. It's like, you got to look at it from, not everyone is going, anytime you're having bargaining sessions, not everyone is going to win. That's a given from the very start. You got to go into it with that mentality, because a lot of these players, they are not benefiting from this. And, especially like these veteran players that, are looking for a contract, even like these guys who maybe might get like $1 million for a season, like someone like Brock Holt.
Right.
I'm not sure. I can't remember if he's a free agent or not, but I think he is. But, someone like that where he's looking to get some work too.
There are a ton of free agents that this situation could totally phase them out of the game.
Oh my God.
I mean, you're looking at Jason Kipnis might be done. Matt Carpenter might be done.
Yeah.
You could see, just going through some of the free agents, Jake Lamb could be done. Joe Panic could be done. Now these are guys that are sort of, they don't present a whole lot, but they could be, the last guy on the bench kind of situation and have a major league job. And it's going to be hard for those type of players to get a job if we're in this, free agent frenzy and we only have a couple weeks to do it before we get into it. Teams might just say, you know what, I got this minor league kid. He's crushing it. And you know what, I'll just stick with him. Sorry, Albert Almora Jr. No team for you.
I am seeing one comment here, and I'm just going to defend it. Lord Ravens saying owners haven't made any real concessions. They have. They have definitely made concessions.
Oh my God, no!
They've definitely made concessions. They have. They completely gave up on the 14.
That's what we're trying to hear. Let's list them up because your voice is in a tough spot. Let's list them off. Okay.
Please.
Universal DH. That gives another job to a Major League Baseball player. No more qualifying offer for a draft pick. So you don't have
that's a big one.
That's a huge one because you don't have a free agent leaving and then all of a sudden nobody wants to sign him. He's poisoned because there's a draft pick associated with it. They're getting rid of that. $150,000 raise for the minimum players, for the pre-arbitration players. The draft lottery, that is something that was a player side. The owners have agreed to that, and it's up to 5 teams. It was at 3. They're up to 5. Service time manipulation idea. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, that was another thing too.
Yeah. Doesn't really make sense. They got to iron that out. But that is something out there. There are things that the owners have done and nobody knows about it because there's a narrative that the players are losing money with this deal. And it's crazy.
The bonus pool is an automatic surplus from the start because it has not happened before. Which I do think should be higher. I crunched some numbers and I came up with my own little bonus pool system, and I came out for 150 players that would be represented by it. I came out to around like 75 million. And for 100 players, which I think 150 players is too much personally. For 100 players, I kind of did that as a sweet spot. That came out to around 60 million. I feel like if you had a bonus pool anywhere from 40 to 60, I feel like that, in my opinion, is fair. But they have made concessions. The 14 team postseason, they looked like they were going heavy on
14. It's going to be 12.
They said, okay, we'll do the 12. They said, okay, we'll do the 12, but we're going to have to come down, a little bit on those things too, which in a way, a 14 team postseason, I mean, come on, no one complains about, maybe I heard a few complaints about the NFL playoffs, but no one complained about that. Everyone loved the play-in with basketball. Like no one's complaining about that. And there's another thing too. I've heard people, I guess complaining a little bit about the patches and whatever on the jerseys. I guess the owners want to do something like that. Okay. Last time I checked, one of the most, wealthy sports, the game of soccer over in Europe, they have, to Arsenal, they got Fly Emirate right over across their jerseys. It's like, that's an airline. They have all these companies right on their shirt. No one says anything about them.
It is weird. It's a weird thing. I still think it's weird to see, I think the Lakers had Bumble on their jerseys for a while, which is a dating app. It is weird. I don't love it, but at the same time, again, like you said, soccer's doing
used to it.
NBA's doing it. It's not the end of the world, right?
Yeah.
And Lord Raven, I see you in the comments. You did the universal DH, sure. Yes, that was a given, but everything else that we listed, that the bonus pool, the bonus pool didn't exist. That was $0 before. That did not exist at all. He commented again. Hold on. He commented again. Almost everything listed, the owners were already in favor of coming into negotiations. See, you're not.
Yeah, like I'm seeing here, the owner's offer is laughable and worthless. I value your opinion. I'm not, you have the right to your own opinion. It's completely okay. But I feel like I will actually agree. In the beginning, I felt like the owners, they started off pretty low.
Yes.
Like they were kind of throwing some stupid offers out there.
Yep.
Don't take it personal. It's negotiating.
I was in the camp of the owners are not negotiating in good faith. I was on that. I was banging that drum until about a week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, the owners
started to move in the last couple of weeks.
The last offer they made, I actually thought, while some things could come up, I really did think it was a pretty decent deal. If you didn't want to accept it, it was definitely negotiable. Like, I think a lot of people could agree the last offer was at least somewhere where you could build.
Yeah.
Like, to me, I thought it was, I mean, again, $700,000 for minimum salary. That's actually in line with other sports as well.
Right.
I mean, good grief. That's a $120,000 increase from last year. Again, the bonus pool is a surplus. I do think it should be higher, but again, at the end of the day, it is a surplus. But people aren't really like you mentioned this earlier. A lot of people aren't thinking of the fact that this CBT, they got hammered on the last one and they accepted it. They cannot get out of that hole in one off season. This was a good stepping stone.
Yep.
You know, to me, I disagree. I think in the beginning, I agree. The offers were laughable.
Yep.
But towards the end, I don't think they were laughable. No. I thought they were okay, at least. You know, 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10.
Step in the right direction, right? And they're also taking down the number of times that you can option a player. So there are a number of options that a player can have. So one, less back and forth. It is movement in the right direction. You get the bonus pool, you get the minimums up, you get all these things, and then in 5 years when you do this again, get more. Now, one of the things that is just not in the player's advantage in this round of negotiations is that in any negotiation, you can demand what you're demanding is weighted out, scaled out, essentially, by how much do you have that the other side wants. And in this situation, the players want more from the owners than the owners want from the players. Now, in 5 years, that could be completely different. In 5 years, it could be completely different. There could be a ton that the owners want from the players, in which case the players will have more leverage to get more. The players, Ross Stripling had the quote out there saying that the owners were trying to sneak a bunch of stuff in last minute, talking about making the bases bigger, eliminating the shifts, things like that, right? The pitch clock. You know what you do, players? Instead of getting irritated and frustrated by that, use that as leverage to get something else that you want. Say, oh, wait, where'd this come from? You want this? You're going to add another $10 million onto that bonus pool. That's negotiation. You just found out the owners just gave you on a platter a list of things that they want from you. Turn that into something. That's what we need to have happen.
And let's go back to the beginning as well. The owners, well, yes, they were putting out some puny offers. Remember with the players, when they were asking for a bonus pool, they asked for 105 and they brought it down to 100. They gave up I believe they gave up the amount of players that would be eligible for the Super 2 status, I believe.
Yeah, they've been all over that
from
number,
like 75 to 35.
Yep.
But they raised the bonus pool. So once they gave up on the Super 2, the amount of players eligible, they raised the bonus pool up 15 million. But when the owners, they gave up on the postseason, the 14 team, they decreased. So they basically did the same thing. While the players gave up something and they increased, while the owners gave up on something and then they decreased. It's the same thing, So like you have to look at it. They're both I think the owners, the way I like to describe it, is they were kind of coming up very, very slow. And the players, they would come down and then they would just go sideways and then down and then sideways, they just never met there, like in the middle. Like that's how I look at it. But let's take a look here. As for the season, Lukester Sports, thank you for the $1.99. Do you think the season will start May or June? I'm optimistic. I'll say May.
I hope May.
I'm hoping. I mean, I don't know. I mean, could it be June? It really just depends on what's going to – I think the next couple of weeks are going to be the big sign because every week you are basically – every week that passes, you're losing another couple of series. So this coming Tuesday, we're going to lose 2 more series.
Right.
Every Monday, Tuesday, or it was Tuesday when they stopped negotiating, you're going to lose 2 more series, which is another week. So
I was hopeful, and it has been totally my hope has been dampened by this, but that they would treat that as another deadline, and that they would try to at least. I mean, I'm glad that the 2 negotiators met today. I'm kind of glad that the 2 negotiators met just themselves, not with everybody else.
Too many cooks in the kitchen.
Exactly. I'm kind of glad that they did that. I think that I was hoping that we would have word that maybe an offer would be made on Friday or Saturday, and then you could get a counter and you could get some back and forth, at least a couple of exchanges of offers before what essentially is another deadline on Tuesday when we lose another week of games. It doesn't look like that's going to happen though, which kind of is disappointing.
I feel like my heart says May and my head says June, but then again, I feel like my head just might be sad. So
Lord Raven, listen, we do not disagree on everything. I agree with you 100% on your last comment. You don't get the free agent until in your 30. Aaron Judge is not going to be an unrestricted free agent until he's 30. It's not his fault that he didn't, blossom into this superstar baseball player until he was in his mid-20s. And that I agree with you on that point. But we can't change, break down, reconstruct the game. It just is that. That is something that we have to know, that it's just I hate to say that it is the way it is, and that sucks. So that's the way it's always going to be. But it's like saying that we should move the base paths to 80 feet instead of 90 because we want to get more base runners on base. Those things, those are hard to change. I agree with you that is a problem. I wish that you could have more of a model like how the NBA does with their players and their contracts. Look at how much money is being thrown around in the NBA, but there's only 12 players on a team. So I'm with you on a lot of your arguments. I agree. I hate that Aaron Judge isn't going to have a chance to make as much money because he didn't get the call up, didn't become a star early enough. I mean, that's I agree with you on that.
I mean, I do think free agency should be sooner. To me, I think when a guy is hitting free agency at 29, I would rather pay the player like Fernando Tatis Jr. when they're 21, 22 years old. That's the kind of money I want to invest in a player.
I want those players to get that money. And
they need to start doing that.
The comment you've got up there from Lord Raven, dude, you're just being an ass. That is not how you converse. Dude, bro, Lord Raven, you're just being an ass. Stop it.
You got to have conversation, man. Yeah. I think it's a lot of it too. Again, I'm not a business owner by any means, but I really do think, I said this earlier, if people, here's the thing, I have a couple of friends that own businesses, and when just go start a business, go give your employees, everything and see what happens. It's gonna, I'm not saying they're billionaires, but your thought process changes, and when I think it really just, I do think at the end of the day, I think it's where you're coming from, and it's where, your background and whatever, and kind of where you are at in life. I think that actually is a big thing where, to me, I've kind of seen and talked with people about, running a business, a small business. I'm over here in Central Florida. There's a lot of small businesses over here. I have a good friend that owns a barber shop, and, there's a lot of little things that go into that. How do they split, paying for a haircut, and stuff like that. Like, he provides the platform for the barbers where they have to pay him rent, and then they get a certain cut out of, no pun intended, the haircut, so it's like, it's Major League Baseball. They are providing the platform for these players. And I'm not saying that the players shouldn't be taken advantage of. I am just saying it is what it is. The owners have the leverage. They made the investment. And then people are going to say, oh, well, but it's owning a small market, or it's owning a baseball team. It's more of a hobby at this point. I don't know. I mean, let's go ask a baseball owner. Let's go ask him that. I don't know, but I think at the end of the day, they have the leverage, and it is what it is. And I hate just saying that. I'm not trying to sound like it's a boring answer, but it is. It's like it's really. I don't look at the emotion of it. I look at I just take an unemotional stance on it. I just see it from a business point of view. It's not personal,
Right.
And I think people need to start looking at it that way. It's really not personal. It's a business. But I think the owners.
Well, the part that's confusing to, I think, a lot of fans and just inconsistent is, I mean, these are all different owners. They have different ways of doing things. There are owners that do treat it like a business, and there are owners that treat it like a hobby, and there are owners that treat it like a toy. And because of that, you've got owners that are very detailed to the fine line, and then you have owners that want to just spend whatever they want to win. And if you're a fan of a team, that's the owner that you hope you have. And I think that can drive fans crazy sometimes is the inconsistencies. It's not all, I mean, these are all 30 different businesses run in a different manner. And that can make it frustrating, I think, at times for some fans.
And there's another one here, Oscar. I love Oscar. He's been around for so long. He says, I'm sorry, Robbie, being an owner of a pro sports team is nothing like owning a business. I agree. It has been shown that on-field performance has no casual link with ROI. It's also, you got to think of it too. It's not just, yes, the players that are on the field are definitely the driving force of the product, but you also got to think of all these other things that are going on in an organization. People in the analytics department, people in scouting, people in coaching. There's a lot of other things too. And with ROI, I will say around average ROI, which is return on investment, I believe the average annually is around 10%. The Dodgers, I think their average annual ROI since that group bought the Dodgers, I think it's about 8% every year. I think for the Red Sox, since they purchased the Red Sox back in 2002, around 12%. It fluctuates, it's up and down. But when I was looking at different averages, like the Dodgers, as much money as they make, only making 8% return on investment, it's not the same thing, but you can kind of see some similarities a little bit because they're investing quite a lot. Like how much did it cost to buy the Dodgers? What was it like? What was it? It was like 2.2 billion or something, I believe. I can't fully remember the number, but you had to pay a good chunk of change to go buy the Dodgers.
Yeah.
It's definitely not the same thing, but I think there's just a lot of other things that are going into an organization that I think, we have to remember at the end of the day. But Oscar, I do agree with you. It's definitely not the same thing. I'm just trying to relate it as much as you can, Oscar, I love Oscar, man. He's been around for so long. Did we have any more?
There was one that just came in.
Either way, I'm team fan. I'm with you guys. We just want baseball back. I don't care what they do. I really don't care about their own negotiations. They can cry and whatever. I don't care because at the end of the day, as soon as that first pitch is thrown, no one is going to talk about these negotiations anymore.
Right.
No one. It's going to be dead. And because if the season comes back, let's say season starts in May, June, you got the trade deadline coming around the corner. No one's going to be talking about these negotiations at all. Baseball sports talk. You had a super chat. Where was it? Oh, I didn't even see it. Here we go. Baseball sports talk. Thank you. You're always so consistent with super chats. I love you. Do you guys believe the players when they say that the tone of the Players Association never changed, that the owners frame them to be in the wrong? What do you think, Jim?
So we were talking about it earlier. Whether you want to believe what the owners say, whether you want to believe what the players say, don't listen to what anybody has said. My feeling is take the actions. Look at what actually happened. Look at what was happening Monday night into Tuesday morning. The flurry of activity, the meeting for 5-10 minutes every 20 minutes. That's what was happening late into the night to rolling in on Tuesday. Everybody got there 9-10 a.m. There was no talk between the two of them for hours. They sat together. So just look at that. Look at that and take what you will. Whether you want to say the players' tone. Listen, none of us were in the room. We don't know. So we're just taking the word that's out there. Do come to your own conclusion based on what actually happened. I was waiting to go live that morning. So I was waiting for that. I was expecting to go live because I figured there was going to be a lot of activity, and I didn't go live because there was nothing. There was nothing. We all figured, well, maybe they're talking over the phone or maybe they're Zoom conferencing. But why would they all of a sudden change the method that they'd been negotiating the next day? Something happened. And Bill Madden, in his piece of information that he put out there, says what happened was that Max Scherzer showed up that day, threw a fit, raised hell, and they completely turned around and unanimously voted the deal down. So something happened, and just do your own logic, take your own account, be the judge of it, make it make it.
And you got to think too, like, man, these guys were probably tired coming in that next day. They were all grumpy and right. How do you feel if you went to bed at probably 4 a.m. by the time they got to sleep, had to be back at 10, 11? Yeah. All I'll say to that is everyone is always the hero in their own story. That's just how we're all naturally going to be. And everyone is going to think they're right. And I think at the end of the day, we don't know. If I were to think, I don't know. I think you could probably say it probably happened on both sides. Tones changed on both sides. I think in the end, again, I'll say, the millionth time, I think they both messed up.
Right.
They both had change of hearts. So
just to acknowledge Baseball Hut. I see you in here, man. How you doing? Listen, Bill Madden may be close to the owners. That doesn't change the fact that his sources on this information comes from owners and other player agents. This is not a one-sided thing. Bill Madden did his journalistic due diligence, and he didn't take just a one-sided account from the owners. He has sources from the players' side as well. So that needs to be said.
But then I'll also just look at it this way. Jeff Passan, Evan Drellick, Ken Rosenthal, they're very close to the players. So it's like, but if there's someone that's close to the owners, well, now they're looked at like they're the bad guy. It's like you can't win. And it's like, I don't want to win. That's not my thing. It's like you got to look at it from both. So
right, Zindava, good pick. Do you honestly believe that either side cares about us, the fans? That's the whole point in this, right? Whether you want to hate the owners or you want to hate the players, or you're pro owner or pro player, the fact of the matter is what Scott Boras anchored, what Scott Boras executed, according to the story, the report, is bad for the fans. The fans lose. The people who work at the stadiums lose because now they're not going to go get a paycheck and get the job. The businesses that count, the bars and restaurants that are in the areas around the stadiums, they all lose. So whether you are pro player, pro owner, anti-player, anti-owner, right down the middle, whatever it is, this story that's out there should make you upset. That's it. Yeah.
And in the end, I don't care about all their hollering. Just get a deal done. I want to see my Red Sox. I want to go see a little bit of Rich Hill on the mound. That's all I care about. I need to see Rich Hill pitch in a Red Sox uniform again and go win a World Series. That's what I need. But anyway,
Rich Hill was one of the best nicknames in sports, by the way.
Huh?
You know Rich Hill's nickname, right?
I don't think it's not allowed to be said.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, mountain. He's a mountain of a man. We'll just leave it at that.
Oh man. Either way, just to wrap this up, there's no animosity. How did I say that? Animosity. Animosity? Yes. There's no animosity at all from me, Jim. We're just trying to look at it from what I personally think and what you think is just down the middle, and at the end of the day, it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
Both sides have, they got a lot to lose. They have a lot to gain, but they have a lot to lose in the end. And right now we are sitting here rambling about their negotiations when we want to be, it's supposed to be spring training. we're supposed to be looking at these minor league players, maybe looking at winning a job.
Right.
So
and
I
there's
don't
no
want to be talking
jobs.
about these
There's
dumb
no jobs
negotiations.
to be won. There's no jobs to be won. I'm talking about the minor league
Yeah.
player salary that we're all in throwing arms up about a few months ago, and now all of a sudden there's no promotion. There's no job for them to get promoted to get the 6-figure salary because of this thing. I just want baseball back for the players.
Yeah.
For the players, I want baseball. I want baseball back.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I'm not going to suck up to either side. Because that's not what I want out of this channel. I don't want to, I mean, sure, I would love to maybe, talk with a player here and there if that's ever possible, or even talk with an executive on a team. I would love either or. Like, I mean, to me, whatever I can do to get closer to the game of baseball, but I'm not going to suck up to either side. To me, I just want to be black and white, and I just want to be transparent with all of you. I don't, that's what I care about. And, just giving my, giving you my terrible predictions every single year. And that's it.
The beauty of this is, everybody, Robbie and I are still new at this. So we don't have these big cultivated relationships with either side. So you will get straight cutting through the bullshit takes and information and responses from us, because there is no relationships in play. Now, we can reach out to people and try to get verification on stories and hear things and do all that, but there is no 10-year cultivated relationship with dozens of players that if I lose that, I'm set back. That we're just here cutting right through it.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I think that's a good way to end it right there. Jim, any last words before we end it tonight?
I appreciate you having me on. I feel like just more noise needs to be created about this for people that can make their own conclusions on this, but more noise needs to be made. And if you haven't heard the full audio interview, you can find it in 2 places. You can find it. I'm sure you can find it on satellite radio. I'm sure you can find it in the replay of Mad Dog's show, but you can also find it on my channel. I have taken and clipped and reposted the entire interview from that, so you can find it in 2 places. But again, thank you for having me on, and I'm glad we were able to talk about this and spread the word. Yeah, and everyone, Ball Cap Sports. If you don't know Ball Cap Sports, go subscribe. You're doing great work, man. We've it's funny, we've both come a long way in this last year. It's like steady, and here we are. I enjoy it. I enjoy it. A lot of people hating us in the chat because they think we're pro owner. Hey, we're not. If we're not making people hate us, then where are we actually doing? That's the way I like to look at it. But either way, all I ask for everyone is, hey, take some time, go read up on some things. Don't try to look at things from one side. That's what I tell my students all the time. Yeah. Get it from both, get information from both sides. Yep. Well, on that note, Jim, thank you for coming on tonight. Really appreciate it. This is a good talk. Hour and 43 minutes, solid talk. Felt like it was 10 minutes and it flew by. So, and my voice is still intact. So you did it. But now I have a field trip tomorrow, and and now I'm not gonna be able to talk. So, okay, this is good. All righty, everyone, have a good night. We'll talk to you next time. I'm probably not going to be doing any content over the next few days. I'd probably like to give my voice a rest for the next few days. So, everyone, go make sure to like the stream. Go follow Ball Cap Sports, and have yourself a good night, everyone. Goodbye. See you later, Jim. See you, buddy. Bye.